Now we think about this idea of nothing to eat, and we fast forward 2 chapters, and in the middle of it, Jesus walks on water. So you should go back and read that part. It's really good. But meanwhile, we go and there's this stuff that happens with 5,000 people. So 5,000 people, and Jesus walks on water, and then Jesus comes back. And so we see this happen, and it picks up here with 5,000 hungry people watching and listening to Jesus. You ever been like at a long lecture, and you're like, I wish the preacher would shut up so I could go eat a lunch? Anybody? Not now. I mean, at another time. 5,000 hungry people. You could just see him sitting out there and listening to Jesus. And Jesus is moved with compassion. And I love this thing that he starts to do, teaching his disciples with a question. Lifting up his eyes then and seeing that a large crowd was coming towards him, Jesus said to Philip, where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat? And he said this as a test to him, for he himself knew what he would do. Could you imagine if Jesus turns to you, he's like, hey, where are we going to get all the food for all these people? Philip's like, I'm sorry? Is there somebody else? Somebody want to jump in? Peter? Anybody else? You guys want to jump in? The logistics on this thing are crazy. All you guys that do spreadsheets for a living, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're like, carry the 5,000 plus all the women in show. We can't do it, Jesus. We got nothing. And he responds in kind. He says this. He says, Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough for each one to get a little bit. This huge amount of money would just get them a little bit, maybe not even that. And I love this. It says that Andrew, which is Peter's brother, he comes and the only thing they had was this little lunch of this kid. And he brings that. He's like, what about this? He says, there's a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. What are they for so many? So you have one side who's trying to do the math on the thing that God is going to do the miracle for, and he's like, we can't do it. We don't have the money enough to do it. The other guy is saying, well, we have this little thing that you've given us, but what good is it? Friends, both of these are lacking faith for what God wants to do. God can do way more than what's in your pocketbook or what's in your bank account. And God can take the little humble things that you have and do great things out of them. It's true. It's true. And so Jesus says, have the people sit down. It was a grassy place. They sat. And he says that the men were over 5,000 in number. It's not the women, not the children, it's the men in count. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to who were seated, and also with the fish as much as they wanted. I love this. See, all he did was break it and give thanks to the Lord for the source of the miracle. And the miracle comes. Man, I'm so encouraged. I say that about whatever you're facing, that the source of the miracle, the things that you have in small faith, what does the mustard seed do? It moves the mountain. And it's the same way with this small miracle. It starts here, is doing the will of the Father in obedience to him. God will do way more than you can do with the same idea. It says, when they had eaten their fill, he told his disciples, gather up the leftover fragments that nothing may be lost. And so they gathered up for them 12 baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves left by those who had eaten. I love this. He tells them to gather up the blessing, the extra, beyond the miracle. Gather it together. Let's count it for the Lord, that he would be glorified. I also think that's one of the best kind of to-go bags you'd ever get. One for each of the 12 disciples, a whole basket. No, but you think about it. You think about them passing out that bread. You think about them giving. And it's just, man, it's such an amazing thing because it meets the need and drastically more. It meets your need and more. It goes beyond anything they could think of. And they gather the blessing together to give thanks to God for what he had done in the moment. To show that it wasn't just the very little bits, but it was more than they needed. Think about that in your life. Think about what God called you from and out of. Think about the grace that's been upon your life, how he's protected you and guided you, how he's been a strength to you and given you wisdom. Think about all those things time and time and time again. Give thanks to the Lord. Gather up those blessings in your heart and give praise to God for what he's done on your behalf.